I just like the way that we ride. I just like I wanna keep you around. Every single day, every night. I just wanna keep. I wanna let you know that I'm down. Down, 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 down. I just wanna keep you around. And every single day, every night, I wanna keep you.
I am really grateful to share today um, what I really believe, and you ought to just get ready to share because I want the world to hear this young man's testimony. I want you to help me welcome today this man of God that's going to share his testimony and his story. I am just grateful for everything that God's doing in his life. Help me welcome Brother Leon today. Come on, Leon, just so grateful. Come on, give it up for Leon. Make some noise online. Come on, make some noise in this sanctuary for this mighty man of God. I am just so excited. Thank you for sharing with me today. And Leon, if you appreciate a lot of what happens behind the scenes, it was a season where he was ill for a little bit and really couldn't help us the way he should. But all summer long, and even before the pandemic and COVID and all that kind of stuff, Leon was here several days a week, just helping us behind the scenes, helping create, helping to administrate, and just using his gift. So I want to celebrate you and thank you, man. We got to wait for all this, this stuff to be over so we can come back together again. But I really thought that your testimony, man of God, is important in this season. So I want to thank you for sharing today in this season where on yesterday we celebrated the life of Will Grant Jr., who just a few blocks, and it pains me, was gunned down, in this community. A young man who I dedicated as a baby and baptized and saw him walk down the aisle and saw him get used in church and then to wake up this morning to the news to see that on 52nd and Woodland, to see in King Sesson outside of a store there that there were shots fired, other young people shot, and the numbers that we see happening within our community. I really applaud all of the efforts of our community and elected officials, State Rep Joanna McClinton, and I want to thank her for pulling together the block to support the Grant family. Cakes has done a wonderful job. All of those young men that were here yesterday, he had a hand in helping to make that happen. Jamie Gardier and the host of those. But you're here today to share that something tragic happened to you that today lands you in this handicap or paralyzed state. Talk to me about the night that you're coming home from work.
So basically, it was like 13 years ago, March 26, 2007. I was coming home from work. It was about like 9:15 at night.
Working where were you working at?
Burlington Coat Factory.
Burlington Coke Factory in Clifton Heights
Yes.
on Baltimore Pike.
So yeah, we got off. I got on the bus, came home. I was 17 at the time. As soon as I got off the bus, I saw SUV, and the people looking at me, it was looking at me kind of odd, and I was looking back at them like, "What's going on?" But I'm like, you know what? Brushed it off. I walked around the corner, and that same car was just stopped in the middle of the street, basically waiting for me.
So you had just got off from SEPTA,
Yes.
coming home from work, 9:15 at night, walking up the street to your block, just working, as a young man trying to do. See this car roll up on you on the block, and what happens?
To hop out the back of the car, the young gentleman in the front, he was like, give me what you got. And I'm young. I'm like, I ain't got nothing on me, bro. I got like a cell phone and a wallet with no cash in it. So he was like, step in the alleyway with me. And I was like, nah, bro. I know what go on in that alleyway. I'm not about to do that. That's the end of my life if I do that. So he had somebody with him. They was coming behind him, and they was trying to like pressure me to move closer. So at that point, I went to try to run because my house was only like 100 feet away. And then the next thing I know, I'm laying on the ground.
You're 100 feet away from your house. You have a cell phone and a wallet with no cash on it. This is transpass to get home,
Yep.
and you're 100 feet away from your house. So when the guy comes around in the back of you, you want to take off.
Yeah, I take off. I'm like, no, I'm not about to get into
And
this.
at that moment, did you think he had a gun? Did they
No,
threaten you?
no.
And so at the moment you turn to run, the shooter does what?
Just one shot right to the shoulder.
One shot to the shoulder. And they don't get anything because you don't have anything. So they're angry that you would run. And they take off.
They take off. They go home.
You're laying there on the sidewalk. What happens?
So basically, I instantly knew I was paralyzed because my body just felt like it was floating underground. Like I wasn't able to move or anything like that. Um, and I'm sitting there trying to call out and yell out to my mom because, like I said, I know she home. The house is close by, so I'm trying my best to yell. I got some neighbors walking by, but they think it's a joke. They think I'm just laying there for fun, and they laughing at me. Um, and then, like 15 minutes later, the cops show up. And I'm more pressed about them catching who shot me than worried about my own health. I'm like, listen, this is the car. I give them the details. I'm like, go get them.
Yeah. And so you're laying there. At the moment you're shot, you know you're paralyzed.
Yeah,
You couldn't move,
couldn't move at all.
even though the shot was to your shoulder.
Yep.
It starts a long journey for you. Your mom comes out of the house. What was that like? I want people to know that your mom's waiting for her son, who's just finished working at Burlington, to come home. And she comes out of her house. What was it like for your mother?
It was, I'll never forget the way she asked, is that Leon? Is that my son? Like you could just hear that she knew it was me, but she didn't want it to be me down there.
She knew it was you, but didn't want it to be you. You're laying there. And so we'll fast forward. You have to go through so much. When you finally find out that you're paralyzed, how do you handle it, man?
I think I handled it all right because I had a sense that I was. Like I already knew I couldn't move my legs. And then in the hospital, I still could move my arms in the beginning, but eventually I could tell in a couple of weeks I wasn't going to be able to move anything at all. And that's eventually what did happen. I was totally paralyzed for
You were
about two.
totally couldn't move arms, legs, hands, or anything.
No,
Now, the bullet that you were shot with lodged in your shoulder, it's still in you right now.
yeah, it's still in my spine right now.
And so the bullet that hit your spine is what caused you to become
Yep.
paralyzed. And it was in too delicate of a spot for
Yeah,
them
they
to move.
can't even touch it. They feel like it would do more damage to take it out.
You're in a hospital wrestling with not moving, and we see some activity in your hands and things now. What did it take, man, to overcome that?
So for me, it was God and laughter. That's the only way I can.
God and laughter.
God and laughter. That's it. I can't explain it.
You talked about being purposeful of not being down, that you went from, because you had to, that everybody that walked in, your mom and family and everybody that walks in the hospital to see you, that you can see that they don't know what to say to you. What is that feeling like? Because they just don't know what to say. What was that feeling like? So you had to now take on the role of, let me help them become comfortable talking to me. What was that like?
It was. I just wanted somebody to talk to. I just wanted everybody to just act like it was normal. Like I didn't want to be treated differently. Like let's just kick it like we normally would.
But they couldn't get over the fact of what have happened to you. You get an opportunity to describe the car and what the shooter looks like and the guys who robbed you who really didn't get anything. Fast forward, you didn't want to be bothered with a trial. You just wanted them to be charged and go to jail, but you had to go to trial. Talk about the day that you walk into the courtroom and you and I talked before this that you tried to get out of going to trial because you didn't want to see. You didn't want to see the individual that did this to you. You did everything you could not to, but then you had to. The day you walk into the courtroom and see the person who shot you, what is that like? Tell us what you went through.
It was heartbreaking to me. Basically, it was like seeing the person that tried to murder you. like seeing your murderer face to face. And then seeing him, he wasn't remorseful at all. Like you could still see the coldness in his heart, just looking in his eyes. He didn't care at all.
He was how old?
He was 15 at the time.
He's 15 years old. You're 17.
Yes.
And you tell me that he was out
Yeah.
and had already had another gun charge,
Yeah.
but the judge had let him out on the streets. So while he's out waiting on another gun charge, he comes, robs you, and shoots you. During that trial, was it emotional for you? What are some of the things that you were thinking? Some of the things
It
that you
was
were.
I couldn't really handle myself. Like I'm not a crier, but that was one of the few times throughout this process that I just broke down into tears, and it was just a lot for me. Seeing him in person and just realizing like my life is basically over, all for what?
Yeah. And so he ends up getting charged and spending time. How long does he?
You got 15 to 40.
15 to 40. And your life dramatically changed. Talk about that change and how you're dealing with it and what it was like when you realized that for what you're 6'1" and life will never, until God does it, be the same for you. What was it like dealing with that and wrestling with that and moving through that process?
It was like starting all over again. It was like basically being a baby, having to learn how to do everything over again, sitting down in a different way, like at a slower pace. And it's tough. Like and I'm a prideful person. I don't like asking for help. I don't like needing help. I don't like not being able to take care of myself. But a lot of times in the beginning, I had to depend on people. I had to ask for help, and it broke me down.
There are days, there are people that are watching. Are there days that let's go back to the court. Had you forgiven that guy? Was it in you to forgive him? Were you there saying, I hope you get the the worst penalty that can be given to mankind? What was in your heart?
Yeah, I hoped he could have got more years. I was hoping he would have definitely got way more years than he got because I feel like for as long as I got to deal with this, you should have to deal with something. But yeah, I did forgive him. I forgave him right away. It was never anything harbored in my heart until recently. Last 2 years, I've been trying to ask God, can I get my forgiveness back? Because it's been
You've been
tough.
trying to take the forgiveness
Yeah.
back. And why is that?
The last 2 years, I've been going through a lot of hospital visits. I had pressure sores, all these things that basically stem from being a paraplegic. Like I would never had to go through these things if I hadn't have been in that situation.
So when you start experiencing some medical issues, it crept back up,
Yeah,
everything that you're going through again. And then you had to work through that level of forgiveness.
yeah.
Man, in the office, we have lunch together, you work, and Terry and Nikki and Donna and Linda and Vicky, we would, be working on stuff. And you appear all the time to be upbeat and energetic and you have fun, you still play sports and all that kind of stuff. But are there some days, man, that you wake up and that you are as ticked off can be?
Most days.
Most days?
Most days. I wake up like that, but I try not to hold on to it. But like I said, it's just waking up in this situation is hard. It's not like I'll wake up, put my feet on the ground, and I'm out, I'm going. No, I gotta wake up. I gotta use something to help me turn over so I can get out the bed, jump in a wheelchair, and figure out what's next.
And you talked about God and laughter getting you through that. Talk about that, what that means.
It's just for me, I'm not as spiritual as I need to be, so I'm doing the spiritual walk challenge. But
You're in those classes, yes. Go
yeah,
ahead.
um, I know he's with me. You know what I'm saying? I don't think a lot of people can handle this, and I think he put this on me because he knew I could handle this. Um,
When you say, there's this passage of scripture, 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verse number 9. The Apostle Paul says, 3 times I've asked God to take me out of this situation, to turn it around. Like, God, I don't want to be like this anymore. And then the Apostle Paul says, he says, but then God says to me, my grace is sufficient for you. My strength is made perfect in your weakness. What do you mean when you says that God must have knew that you can handle this?
I can't even describe it. Like it's a lot of times. I definitely understand why people in wheelchairs have that bitter persona. I totally get, like, I really want to be that person a lot of times. Like, I want to be angry and mad, but it's not in me. I can't stay mad. I can't stay angry. I have to keep moving. Like, I have to be joyful about my life the best I can.
It's a choice you make
It's a choice.
to be joyful,
Yeah.
or you could be bitter,
Yeah.
but it's the choice you make. You talk about what it's like to get up out of bed, and there's some people today that woke up and be like, and they complain 102 times before they got out of bed, going to work, doing whatever it is, just complaint, complaint, complaint. And there's some people, oh, this hurts, that hurts, all that kind of stuff. There are days you long to be in situations that people take for granted. Talk about how frustrating it is. You talk about being in the kitchen, wanting to grab something, or wanting to go back out to the car to get something, or something small to run around the corner, or to, have to do something in the house and can't reach it. Talk about that.
It's crazy. It's tough. Like I said, I'm a prideful person. I don't like that extra help, so I'll take my armrest off. I'll try to knock something over and breaking something else just to get one thing. Um, but it's hard. It's You just look up like, yo, I should be able to do this on my own, but I can't. I gotta get some help.
Yeah. For the gun violence is tremendous in our city, and it's a pandemic by itself in Delaware County, in Chester, and Philadelphia, and Chicago, all over the country. Guys that are behind a gun oftentimes aren't thinking about the impact. There's a message that you wanted to share.
Yeah, listen, every action that you do affects other people. It may not just affect, it's not going to just affect that one person that you shoot. It affects a whole multitude of people outside of that. And people don't grasp that. They don't understand it takes a village to take care of people. Once they're in this situation, it takes death, paralyzed, whatever. It takes a village to bring that person back up. So you shoot somebody, you're not just shooting them, you're shooting their whole family.
You're shooting up their whole family. I want to thank the Lord. You mentioned State Rep Joanna McClinton and some things that you are working on in gun violence. Talk about that, please.
So yeah, I'm a part of this gun survivor support group, and it's a bunch of
Gun
us.
Survivor Support Group.
Yes.
Okay.
So we're all paralyzed in wheelchairs, and we're trying to. We just got together to try to bond and to be uplifting to each other. And because of all the violence that we got going on in the streets, we want to do something to try to help. Let people know this is not the way to go. Like, you can do better than this. You don't have to use the gun first.
Yeah.
So we're trying to get together with some of the state representatives and other leaders in the community so we can put together rallies or whatever.
Yeah, and some people from her office has been instrumental. So I want to make sure that we share that information about Gun Survivor Support Group, because there are many who life will never be the same as a result. There are many that look at you and wouldn't know that there's a bullet still lodged in you. But man, there's a shout over this because it could have went another way.
Yes.
Somebody ought to help me praise God today and just thank the Lord that it could have went another way. You got to believe that God has great purpose on your life. You better believe that God wants to use you, that God has plans for you, that there's a word. I'm telling you, man, you can reach people. People need to hear your story. They need to hear your testimony. You can go back and encourage other people who are going through that. God and laughter will get them through this. But you're also, man, I'm so proud of you. Your wife You're married and you have a beautiful daughter who's 3 years of age. Will you help me celebrate? God has just blessed them with a beautiful home, a rancher, so that you can get around. I'm so grateful for that. And your wife, who's and correct me if I'm wrong, a respiratory therapist, has been so instrumental in caring for our very own Pastor Kevin Paget. And I want to just thank her. I want to thank her for her hard work. She has been so instrumental, so caring. Who would know that she's looking at her rounds one day of all of the patients that she has to treat, and she says, wait a minute, this pastor's from my church. And so I want to just thank the Lord for the oil on her life and everything that she's doing. Will you help me celebrate that mighty woman of God? The gun survivor support group. When do you guys meet, or will there be information forthcoming?
So we meet every other Wednesday on Zoom. You can look at the flyer up there if you want
What
to
time?
contact me. We normally do 6 to 8 on Wednesdays.
6 to 8 on Wednesdays on Zoom, and they
Yeah.
can contact you on that flyer. And then you and your wife has started something, and your little girl is just adorable. We love her, but you guys have started something, and that is you started a YouTube channel.
Yes.
Tell us about your YouTube channel.
So we started a YouTube channel to basically talk about what it is to be an interabled couple. That's where the one person is either have a disability and the other person is just able-bodied and healthy. And we just want to highlight, everything that we go through. It's hard. It's not easy, but we just want to bring awareness to it and show people that you can do this.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
you know what I'm saying? That you can still have a life after being in a wheelchair.
Yeah, I am just so grateful, man, and thankful. I want to encourage people to really follow your life on the YouTube channel, because you guys do show how you make it work in what is some challenging times. I want to encourage people today, and this is so important, to really make it your business to get behind everything that the community will be doing, the church will be doing, to stem the tide of gun violence in our neighborhood and in our community, to follow this man of God on YouTube channel. And like he says, God and laughter. Choose today to lose negativity and complaining and choose joy. Choose joy. Leon, we appreciate you. Will you help me celebrate this mighty man of God? Come on, thank God for his wonderful testimony. Come on, let's believe God to do great and mighty things. And somebody ought to thank God, because it could have went another way. There's great plans and purpose that God has for his life, and we haven't seen the best of it yet. God bless you today. Get ready to watch our video announcements.